Okay, this is lesson 2 of the leash work. We're now on my driveway. You probably won't be able to hear me, so I'm going to video it and explain it later. Alright. Actually, we'll start off. Good girl. Remember, the dog needs to be on your left side. So keep it on your left. Again, this is not how I like the leash held, but for training, this is what I'm going to do. And I really, really want to emphasize that I try not to use the leash to guide the dog. I want the dog to do it on their own. So as much as possible, it's going to happen. You're going to give it tugs, but definitely don't be jerking the dog or anything like that. Usually I just freeze and hold in place if she goes away. Good girl. Until she gets back to where she should be. Okay. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Sit. Good girl. Remember, if you're stopped, she should be sitting. This way. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. This way. Good girl. 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 Again, I want the dog to check in with me, so that's what I'm looking for. Which she's, distracted, of course. Good girl. Good girl. But I kind of just wait when she gets distracted until she gets back on her own. Good girl. She is only 5 months old, so she's obviously more distracted than even some dogs. Then there's adults that are just distracted or more, so age isn't always the excuse. Obviously, if you start this with a really young puppy, you'll have a really good leash walker. So I do recommend you start this as early as possible, but it's never too late. Just going to take a little more dedication. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Mattie. Good girl, Mattie. Good girl. And notice how I'm not giving her treats all the time, but I am talking to her all the time. Good girl. Good girl, Mattie. Good girl. What a good girl. That was so good. What a good girl. Good girl. Okay. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. Good girl. This way. Good girl. That's a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now, I'm going to turn you a little so you can see how I want to show the dog they can do a potty break on command. That way they're not yanking you to go to the bathroom. Can you go potty? Okay, here you go. Go potty. Okay. Good girl. All right. And back. Mattie. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. So I was changing my speed to see if she was keeping up with me or if she was still doing her own thing. You notice she was more in tune with my speed. So you can do that as well. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Leave it. Good girl. Good girl. All right.
Good job, Mattie. Good girl.